In this West Wing Companion, we're talking about journeys. One prosecutor went to walk among the world's highest peaks, seeking fitness, nirvana, the only place on earth where he couldn't check his cell phone. We'll find out. Another prosecutor charted her career from cutthroat corporate law to representing the people as a prosecutor. What was she seeking? We'll find out by talking to her and her best friend from middle school, who happens to be a prosecutor who helped her find her way here to the West Wing. First, let's talk to Assistant District Attorney James Gibbon Shapiro. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Who was last on this podcast talking about your enduring love of Harry Potter. Today we're going to talk about a place that's almost as remote as Hogwarts, the Himalayas. So I want to ask you sort of a obscure question. During your adventure, did you ever think about the justice system of Nepal? What would have happened, for instance, if you'd cursed on that sacred mountain that you were on?
Yeah, I thought about it in small ways and big ways. So there were all sorts of rules for the trek that I took in the Annapurna region of the Himalayas. And as we got to higher elevations, the rules even changed, became more strict. So at very high elevations, there were no beasts of burden. So donkeys couldn't be used to carry things. Everything that had to be carried, because there were no roads where we were going, were being carried by people. And there was no curse words that we agreed on the group that we were not going to use because out of respect for some of the very holy places that we were going. And they have rules for no bottled water. Everyone in the county is familiar with the no plastic bottle rules here in the county, and that's also true in the Annapurna region of the Himalayas.
So what happens if you transgress, though? What happens if you break those rules?
Well, when we were first talking about it, especially the no cursing, people on the group, some of whom were in their late teens and early 20s, were joking about how difficult that was going to be, and maybe that wasn't going to be possible. But I think inspired by the place and what we were all trying to do together, that it actually was pretty easy to do. And then I fell off the wagon as soon as I got back.
Did anyone talk about like what would happen to you if you did curse? Is it a spiritual justice, or is it an actual, do you get in trouble somehow?
I don't think that we would have gotten in trouble. There were not Nepalese police or soldiers who were ready to take us into custody if we had done the wrong thing. So it was more of a self-policing situation.
Yeah. Which unit would have handled the no cursing transgression in our office?
We don't have a unit that prosecutes people for things that they...
James, when you travel to a distant place or travel anywhere outside of the country or away from the office, do you find that you bring back a different perspective to your job and to your life?
One of the things that people said to me, especially in the first few days that I was back, was that I was talking slower and that I was maybe taking more time thinking about things before I said things. And that also started to change. I went back into old habits. But I think that one of the things that I was looking for in this adventure was to get a new perspective on my life here in California and in the United States. And slowing down and spending most of your time thinking about where you're going to put your next footstep on the stone path that you're on is very different from the kinds of things that I think about here. And I think it helps to put everything we do here in better perspective.
What is the better perspective?
Well, I think that anytime you go out of the country, and certainly when you go to places that are both inspiring because of the nature and the mountains and the sights that you see, and also so different in the ways that people live, you get a lot of ideas about things that are very different, but also really the same. And that people all over the world, we all want the same things. We all want to be happy. We all want to have success for our families in all the ways we define that. We want to find companionship and love, and those things are true everywhere you go. And that perspective is important to be reminded of.
You're definitely speaking at the rate that you were speaking before you went on your vacation now.
I absolutely am. You make me nervous, Sean. You're ruining all of my
vibe,
Zen
the Nepalese vibe.
feeling. Yeah.
Where's your next adventure?
I don't know. One of the things that I'm thinking about is this year is my 25th wedding anniversary, so maybe I'll take a trip with my wife. My wife did not go on the trip to the Himalayas, so maybe my next trip will be with her, and probably we won't be hiking in the mountains for 11 days.
Yeah, I'm thinking a cruise would be the best for you.
Maybe so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Marissa McCune, who supervises our crime strategies unit, and Cheryl Leung, who just joined our office as a prosecutor after a career as a corporate lawyer. The two met as two little girls in a gifted program at school and tried mock cases together in high school. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. What are the factors, it's sort of a serious question, but what are the factors that cause lawyers to choose corporate or defense law or prosecution? Like is there a certain type of personality that gets into those types of law?
I think all lawyers are type A people. I think the people who are choosing between corporate law and criminal law would be a sort of extroversion, is my prediction. I find that people who go into criminal law want to be in front of a jury. They want to convince a pool of 12 strangers to come around to their viewpoint, and so they're very extroverted. And so maybe setting aside the extreme extroverts, there might be other reasons that people are interested in corporate law, but that's my observation.
What do you think, Maris?
I think that's right. I think my husband is a bank lawyer, and he thinks that our job is his version of a living nightmare, because there's a part of it that requires you to put yourself out there on a stage, and that's a particular type of personality. But also, I think that the kinds of people who want to be prosecutors in particular, and that's where we both wound up, are people who are attracted to something that's larger than just the day-to-day task of being a smart lawyer. It's about something bigger. And so I think when you decide to go into the prosecution side of criminal law, it's because something was driving you to have more meaning in your legal career than just being really smart and a good advocate.
You buy it, Cheryl?
I mean, that's certainly what drove me to this job. I worked as a corporate litigator for 11 years, and we got to work on really cool, cutting-edge cases involving, big name companies, franchises, things that are in the news and all very interesting.
But Marissa says that's soulless.
Yeah, right. And that's rewarding in its own way. So I'll just leave it at that. But I think, when I had some time to reflect back on my career and where my path was going forward, I didn't want to stay there. I wanted to do something with a bigger impact on the community, something with more, like what Marissa was saying, something bigger than the case itself, working, inside a system, that would kind of be able to arbitrate people's rights and defend things like due process and, the Constitution. Mm-hmm. So bigger things, certainly.
Switching topics a little bit, but how important is it to have a frientor or a mentor in an office like this one, Marissa?
It's super important in any job, but especially in a job where it just gets more and more challenging as you go along, and you start to see really visceral parts of humanity that maybe you've never imagined. You certainly want somebody who understands what that looks like and who can say, you're gonna make it. Like, this is dark, and sometimes it feels like a bottomless pit of sadness, but you're part of it. If you can have a friend who can be a light in that darkness, is to say, yeah, but you're here for a reason. Like, keep your light on. So
wow. So it's less about sort of letting them know about certain legal strategies than sort of
that.
Right. What do you think, Cheryl?
I think the
Are you
teamwork.
depressed yet?
No, not yet. But I'm very new.
She's being crushed by the work. She'll get to the sadness later.
I do think the being able to lean on each other is a big part of the job. Even just now, in our little misdemeanor team, it's so important. After hours especially, and you're kind of just stuck in a rut. It's so helpful to be able to go 2 doors down and find your teammate and say, "Hey, can I run this by you?" And they always have something good and insightful to add, and it helps. I think it's that feeling of support and the network that's there to help you succeed is so important.
Did you ever try to convince Marissa to join corporate and drive a McLaren?
I don't think I did. No.
Could you have ever imagined yourself like in that world?
My first year out of law school, we actually worked down the street from one another in San Francisco. I worked at a big firm, as did she, and so I had seen a little bit of what that looked like, and I actually really loved the firm that I worked for, but I think it would be difficult to go back to that, having been here.
I'm glad you're both here.
Me too.